Hello. And first of all, let me apologize for being late. It is my fault. I had kind of an emergency meeting for a client in another state, and they're in a different time zone. And so that messed up the timing of things. And the reason I say it was kind of an emergency is because it wasn't anything bad, but school is starting for this student on Monday. And so they were just trying to get everything lined up as much as possible today. So I apologize because I was in that meeting. And actually, I even left that meeting. They were sort of wrapping things up. So you have caught yourself landing, listening. We have caught you. I don't know what. I can't talk. I'm not making sense. This is Friday with Fran. And I'm Shelley. That's Fran. Maybe you should introduce this week, Fran, because I don't know what I'm saying.
And guess what?
What?
For a lot of people, school started.
This is true.
And for some people, it hasn't started.
Right.
And then for some people, what they thought was going to be the start of school totally changed, like midstream.
Right.
Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Yay. So, what? School started. Now what?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. Now what, Fran? Huh?
You want to know what happened with my daughter?
Yes, please.
You want to start with that?
Absolutely. If you want to start with that, we'll start with that.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Pause. I got to do the business stuff. If you're watching, #live. If you're watching in the replay, #replay. Remember, all the comments help move us up in the algorithm, help get us seen. Okay, go ahead.
So, I just quickly, because I was doing a lot of things when she came home, so I really hadn't talked to her, but I wanted to touch base prior to having Friday with Fran, because I wanted to share her day, because school started. She has no schedule.
Oh. That doesn't sound right.
They have nothing for her. No idea where she's supposed to be. Those were her words. They didn't know where I was supposed to be, Mom. Okay.
So what did she do?
I had received an email and we read it together. She goes, "Yeah, that's probably going to happen, but I don't know what else is going to happen, Mom." I was like, "Okay, I will take care of that. When Friday with Fran is done, I will send an email. We'll sit down together and try to come up with some plan." My daughter, for those that don't know, is in extended education. And in the state in which we live, they just passed a law, and it got signed, that she should have aged out around,
November.
Time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but they passed this law that once she starts the school
year.
Yep. Then she gets to finish it. So right. That is such a blessing. And so we really want to get the most out of it, especially since the previous, all the calendars were so mixed up and haphazard, and there was so much of it she missed due to them not meeting at all, or close contact of a close contact due to whatever. She missed out on a lot. So I have been sending emails back and forth with the school and phone calls to ensure that hopefully we would get the most out of this. And so, and I kept looking on, we use something called Teacher Ease. I don't know if a lot of schools use it or not, but I kept looking on there for her schedule, and there was none. And there still is none. So I was hoping maybe they would have some form of schedule or some communication. And maybe there will be an email when we're finished with Friday with Fran. So I'm going for I'm going to try to be really positive and to focus on finding the good, because so much of life I think right now is really, we could really dwell in the negative. We could wallow in the pits of yuck
Yeah.
because there's so much, everyone is so polarized, whether it comes to vaccines, masks, meeting in person, remotely, homeschooling. It just, things that we used to be able to discuss civilly with people have become where friendships and families are being torn apart.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. So I've been really trying very hard personally in my own life, in my words and actions, to find the good in whatever situation. So for Allison's, I'm really trying to find the good in this, and and to find on what to focus rather than on all of the negative. But I do feel like I did need to mention there was no schedule because that is what happened for her beginning day of school.
Right. And at her age, which is 21, so yeah, this is, the year 14, 15 of school. I can't imagine that they let anybody else come into school today without a schedule. So what did she do all day? I mean, it was only a half a day, right? It wasn't
I honestly didn't have an opportunity to ask her that.
Okay.
Because I was really, I had something I had to do prior, and so that kind of I did want to touch base with her, so that's all I know right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting and not sounding very good. And having part of the information is difficult as well. And when I say part of the information, I mean, you don't have the school's part. You don't have the other person's view of today prior, or once the day was completed, their perspective may have changed from earlier to later. And can I share a story?
Yes, you may. Because I was looking for a text even to see if someone had sent me a text.
So last night, I was scrolling through some of the Facebook groups that I'm in. And one of the groups, it was a new question that had just popped up. And I thought it would be something that I would be able to help the person with. And so I told her to private message me, and she did. And she was telling me, I've never met this person, don't have any idea where she was from, nothing. And she was asking me about a situation that had happened at her daycare where she works. And they had a fire drill yesterday. There was a child with sensory issues. I guess throughout the conversation, I gathered that they had set up an area in the daycare as this is where the fire is happening. Since it was a drill, there was actually no fire. So when they set the alarm off, this person that I was speaking to was very upset. And this is after the drill has happened. This is last night. The drill happened earlier in the day. And she says, the other teacher didn't do what she was supposed to do. And I, it's a daycare. So I'm carrying an infant, and I'm trying to get this other little person out of the daycare while the alarm's going off. And this little person is screaming and running around and has their hands over their ears because the noise is bothering them. And she was just livid because she was so mad. And I don't know, rightly so or not. And I just kept talking to her, and I'm like, okay, so was there any talk prior to the fire drill of what would happen, who would take who, where you were supposed to go, any of that kind of stuff? And she was like, well, no, not really. And I said, okay. I said, so did you all know that the child had this sensory issue before this happened? Well, no. I said, okay, so you're getting very upset at these other people because you seem to have an innate ability to understand what needed to be done for the child who kept running back into the building where the fire was. I mean, like apparently kept running into the exact area where they said, this is where the fire is, and did that 2 or C times before somebody finally said, okay, don't worry about the kid, or never mind, this isn't going to affect, I don't know what they said, but they said before they stopped making her try to get the kid outside. And I said, so it's a communication thing, but you are now understanding. And she's like, but I knew it beforehand that this would bother him or her. I don't even know. And I said, but not everybody has that. Those of us who have that have been given a gift. And it isn't something that we learned, and it isn't always necessarily something that we can teach others. And so in the course of the conversation, she was like, well, the other teacher couldn't understand why I was so mad when everything was over. And I said, well, go tomorrow and talk to the teacher, because now that you've seen what has happened, you can all change your viewpoints of what needs to be done. And you can also, if you can calmly, and if you can't calmly talk to the person tomorrow, then wait until the weekend is over and then talk to them about, okay, we need to have a plan for the next time this happens. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. What can we do different next time? What went right in this fire drill? I said, but that's the point of a drill, is to find out the areas that need to be improved. And so not only, because your situation, you don't know the other person's perspective, meaning the school, this person didn't know how the other teacher was feeling either. And I'm like, she could be very upset. She could have been expressing anger toward you because she was angry with herself that she didn't take care of this beforehand. And so, now she's lashing out, but she's really not mad at you. She's mad at herself. But you won't know that until you talk to her.
Right. And I think, because I just signed on to Teachers, and it says, sorry, the student schedule hasn't been completed yet. But I think ultimately, as you're sharing, and as I was looking, because that's a form of communication, looking on Teachers, it's a written form of communication, electronic, digital, whatever you want to call it. It's still, and there was a communication problem in your situation. And I think so often I'm finding when there is a problem, it often links back to communication or lack thereof, or assumptions.
Yep.
So I don't know, but I have a really good gut feeling what the assumption was from my daughter.
What do you think it was?
That she would not be in school all these calendars. So
okay.
I don't think they were quite ready. So but I don't know that. But that's what I feel because of what has occurred to this point.
Right.
Because she wasn't, we did online registration in our district. And when I tried to do online registration, there was no ability to register her because they didn't have her coming back. They had to add it in to her profile. So that's when I started getting the feeling that, but I don't know. And I'm really hoping I'm wrong. But that's how it is appearing, and it come across to me as a parent when nothing is ready for my daughter. So I've gone through a series of emotions and frustrations, but I know that ultimately I want the best for my daughter, and to go in there screaming and yelling or making accusations will do nothing but alienate any type of relationship, workable relationship I could have with them to help her reach her fullest potential and maximize what she can get out of her final time in school. So for her, I have to as I say, suck it up, Buttercup, and just do the best thing for her.
Hi, Alex. We're glad you made it.
Does that make sense?
It does. And my daughter and my husband often get upset with me because I have an ability to see what might be the other side's perspective. I mean, I'm not right. I am right more often than I'm not, but I'm not right every time. And from a school's perspective, I'm thinking that, if you had to do the online registration, they probably had a company develop that online registration, or they had an individual develop it to, like say kindergarten through their senior year. Because I'm guessing you had to somewhere click on they're going to be in this grade this year, or was it just that you had to put in the person's name?
It was supposed to be in the digital locker drop down.
Okay. So maybe that wouldn't have worked, because that's what I was thinking was, they probably don't have a lot of students like your daughter, and it wasn't an intentional omission as much as an oversight, because while she is obviously main priority numero uno for you, they have 2,000 students in the district. So not that she isn't important, she's just not here on their important level like she is on yours.
And yes, and I get that totally. And so I think it comes down to, we've used this word quite a bit. It's called grace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm finding it's not that I'm better than anyone else, because I really don't want that to come out like that.
Right.
But if I expect others to give me grace, I better be giving grace to others.
Yeah.
And I better be willing to realize that everyone is human, and we don't know what's going on in everyone's lives. No
Right.
one, only that person knows. Even best friends don't know everything that's going on in each other's lives.
Right.
So you have to give each other grace. And so for me, it helps when I have someone that can say, "Hey, Fran," um, and give me the other perspective. It doesn't make me angry, and it doesn't make me say you're minimizing my feelings. So to translate that, or to make this where it's good for someone else, not just you and me having this conversation,
Right.
is, as I see it, is I call it a sounding board
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, because I tell people I'm really good. If you tell me you just need a sounding board, I'll be really quiet and you can just talk away. And if you want, I'll feedback what you've said so you can hear it. So maybe you'll hear it in a different way. And so I am blessed to have a few people in my life that are willing to speak truth into it, and to be that sounding board. And if I'm going gung ho off in some really randomly weird tangent, they'll say, hey, Fran, stop a second. No, just hear me out. And then if you still want to, go for it. But I have people willing to put the brakes on when I am not braking and I'm running full tilt into a brick wall.
Yeah.
So I encourage people, don't try to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out to others. I mean, Shelley has this Shelley Kino, IEP consultant, master IEP coach. That's what she does. Reach out to people like that. There's so many resources. You don't have to do it alone, is what I'm saying.
Right. And a lot of them are free. I mean, this particular person last night, I didn't charge her because I didn't really feel like I was consulting with her as much as what you just talked about, that I was just a sounding board. And come to find out that she is a special education teacher. She's certified as a special education teacher working in a daycare setting. And it's not a daycare setting in a school, like sometimes they'll have those. It's a private institution. But she says, I don't have anybody to talk to. And so many times lately, I have heard special education teachers specifically saying, I feel like I'm an island amongst all of these other teachers. And for those who are watching, I felt that way. In the first district that I worked in, I was the only special education teacher in the building every day for a pre-K through 8 setting. Another setting that I was in, I was one of 2 special education teachers in a pre-K through 8 setting. In another district that I worked in, I was one of 4, I think. But that was a larger district as far as numbers of population, but the school setting was only 4 through 8, so D through H at the other setting. And I've been in multiple districts in my area that are very similar to the A experience that I had, which is there is a special education teacher for all the grades. And then there are, let's see, there'd be pre-K, K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So then there's this many gen ed teachers or more. And then I'm over here by myself. And so, a lot of times we as special education teachers just feel that nobody understands us where we work, and I can only imagine that is extremely similar to being a parent of the child that I would see, because you are
alone a lot of times, because I saw something, good old Facebook, where there was a picture. It was a mom on a swing holding their child, and there's a wheelchair sitting there, and I think the story along with it goes, I see you, or something like that.
Yeah.
But so often your friends are celebrating the normal things. And whereas you may be celebrating that you got through a day where your child didn't hurt themselves because they didn't have sensory overload that day. Right. Or you may be celebrating the fact that they were seizure free that day, and that's your celebration. Yep. So it is truly, there are often you feel very, very alone, but to know that you're not alone is very important. I think that's why it's so important, or why I always share in Fridays with Fran, that you're not alone, that there are others, because there have been times through this journey with my kiddos where I felt very alone, that no one understood the journey in which we were, and no one's journey is identical. And right. I'm not trying to say that, because I have B kiddos who happen to have different abilities, I get your journey. No, but I might have a closer idea and might be able to empathize a little better than somebody else.
Right. I went to a meeting the other day, and when the meeting was over, I was sharing with the people at the meeting my book, because I had brought a copy for the client that I was in this meeting with. And I was saying how the stories in there, I know everybody that's in the book, obviously. And I thought, having taught for as many years as I did kids who learn differently, that I had a pretty good understanding of what a family's life was like that was different than mine. But when I started doing these interviews, I found out that I still only had, like this much knowledge or understanding. Well, I still don't understand, but knowledge of what was going on. And I said, and there's, the families that I have spoken with, not just for the book, but, through all of my teaching and all of what I do now as an education consultant, the story of we don't talk about it is on repeat. Every family, they don't talk about it. And the parent that was at this meeting said that she has a daughter who lives a short distance away from her. And this particular person is raising her grandson right now. And she said, my daughter has no idea what I go through on a daily basis. And I talk to her daily, and she only lives she only lives a little bit away, and she says she doesn't have any idea what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
The story of James in the book, his mom has 11 brothers and sisters. And even the sibling that the mom was the closest to, and who had experienced some of this stuff with her, said, I had no idea. And the siblings that she wasn't as close to were like, I really had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it still shocks me that when I wrote the book, the statistic was 1 in 26 families was a family with a special need. That when there's that many families that are like that you all still feel alone. And it hurts my heart that you all still feel alone.
I don't know. Maybe I'm further along in that part of the journey.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that you're raising awareness through things like this and No Limits and your book, so that people aren't alone. But sometimes you realize there are others, but you're so busy trying to keep your head above water that you don't have time to reach out for help or to help others.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I just I just want everyone to have that hope, though, that the times where you're like barely got your nostrils above the waterline,
Yeah.
that there are times that you're actually floating on the water, all laid back, just relaxing too. It's not always just barely hanging on.
Good.
There are times of there are times of valleys, and there are times of mountaintops. And life is like that in general. I just think when you have a kiddo who happens to be differently abled, the mountains and valleys are pretty extreme, and there's not many plateaus in the in between. So you're either high or low. So it's really you're always experiencing something to an extreme.
Yeah.
And so finding that that word that Alex always uses, finding that balance is so important, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep coming back to, how are you refueling? How are you refreshing? Because you cannot help somebody else if your battery is empty.
Right. And one of the reasons I think that it's important for me to continue to do this and hashtag No Limits, and to continue to get the word out about my book and get people to purchase it, is not because people think that someone whose life is different than theirs is absolutely miserable, but that there is that, exactly what you said, there is the balance. they do have, you do have highs and lows and days that you're just going along. But sometimes I think it's important for me that people don't assume one way or the other, positive or negative, that they know what it's like. And that they don't assume that a certain person is not worthy of their time, or that they aren't worthy of another person's time just because of something.
Mm-hmm.
Every person on the planet is a person first. It doesn't matter their ability level. It doesn't matter their socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter their celebrity status. It doesn't matter the color of their skin. It doesn't matter what political affiliation or religion or whatever. Every single person is a person first. And this is just the area where, and I've been told multiple times by strangers lately when I talk about my book or I talk about what I do, and they've all said this word, how passionate I am. And they're like, you can just see it when you talk, the passion that you have for this. And that's the gift from God that I've been given. This is my love, my passion, my area where
Your mission.
My mission, where I want to make it better.
Did you see your mom's comment? It's pretty cool.
Yes, I did, and I will put it up.
I know, because you weren't going to put it up, so I had
No,
to say
it wasn't.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Mom. And Mom knows some of the people in the book, because some of them are friends of mine, some of them, that she's known, and some of them are families that she knows. So, it's, and like I said, there's a couple in there, and it isn't a secret because I say I taught the kids. So, so, and she had opportunity to meet some of my students over the years. And, so nobody honestly knows what it's like behind anybody else's doors on a daily, minute, whatever basis. And you and you could be thinking 20 different things right now than what I'm thinking. And we're not going to know that because we can't, because we're not in every person's head. So,
Thankfully.
Right? Our experiences are not the same. And she fell in love with all of my students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's that brings me back to what you were talking about at the beginning. Is it's very difficult when you're in your own head, in your own space, like this lady that reached out to me last night, and she was so aggravated, and she was so just like, oh, this other person was just so uncaring. And I'm like, but you don't really know that, because you don't know what that person was feeling in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what that person was thinking leading up to it, or now what she's thinking now that it's all said and done.
Right.
Kind of going back to last episode when we talked about doing it scared. I had said that I was kind of nervous about going because I didn't know who was going to be there, and the people that I had and still consider my friends from school had said they wouldn't be able to come, most of them. And I had actually run into one of my classmates a few days, I guess it had been a few weeks, I don't know, sometime shortly before that event. And they had not been real friendly with me. And so I had that, like, oh, okay, it's just going to be like that was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out that the person that I had seen prior to the class gathering was also at the class gathering, and she apologized to me for the other time that she saw me. She's like, I was very distracted. I wasn't me when I saw you the other day. And had I allowed myself to just internalize what I had originally thought, which was, oh yeah, here we go again. It's, it still doesn't like me, or still can't be cordial to me, or, whatever. I would have missed out on that apology, and I would have missed out on that opportunity to be told, I was really distracted. I didn't mean to be that way to you. I would have missed out on understanding her perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Of the situation, and being able to be at peace with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, leading up to that, it was difficult because I didn't have that other bit of information.
So I think as you've been sharing and you said you didn't know what was going on in my head.
Nope, I don't.
You remember I have chipmunk, and a bunch of chipmunk are called a scurry. So I have a bunch of scurry up there, multiple bunches of scurry chipmunks. So I honestly don't know where we're going to end up. So if we get too far, just bring me back. But
we really didn't have a topic for today. Remember, it was like, oh, what are we going to talk about? I don't know.
So, well, I had a topic in my head.
Yes, you did. You did. You messaged it to me the other day, and I was like, I don't know what this means.
I thought because I didn't put it in quotes.
Well, but I thought you were talking about a situation that we were sort of already discussing, and I thought it was just like a continuation of that, not that you were talking about today. Because I'm not in your head.
Oh man, you know that movie, What Women Want? Have you ever seen it?
I don't know.
It's a weird movie, but it's somebody that all of a sudden something happens and he's a really chauvinistic dude, but then something happens and all of a sudden he can hear the thoughts of women.
Oh, that poor guy.
Yeah, but I mean, he hears everything, and like everything, things that the good, the bad, everything, and so that's what came into my mind partially when I was like, I don't know if people really want to know the thoughts. Maybe it's a good thing we don't know each other's thoughts.
Yeah.
And then there was that other quote, you don't know what's going on in someone's life. If nothing else, be kind.
Right.
That floats around, comes around, and goes around. I think it's from Robin Williams. So, but my thoughts on all of this are, okay, so we know that communication is a problem in life in general. And
if this is the right movie, I do think I remember seeing this now. If it was Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
I think
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because anyway, I'm not gonna go. I could go off on that movie because they're just really funny parts because they really got some of the thoughts of the stereotypical thoughts of women, plus the things that men don't realize. It was interesting.
Yeah.
But okay, back. I lost it. But I know what I was gonna. This wasn't anywhere where I was going, but I do want to talk about this, so we're gonna go with it because I forgot what I was gonna talk about. Okay. So, I was talking about empathizing previously, remember, and having understanding. But I'm in a new phase of body falling apart, and in a new area that I've never had to deal with myself or my kiddos. So it's like a whole new ball game. It's like I'm in the Pee-wee division and I'm learning the basic skills.
Right.
But unfortunately, I need to be in the pro division pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I know from all my time of playing soccer and basketball, you're not going to get from Pee-wee to pro without lots of practice, and practice takes time and commitment. And so, yeah, you can do practice, but you can't make time happen. You can't lengthen time. So instead, I have to rely on others to help me get to that level. But it doesn't make me dumb or stupid or weak.
Right.
It just means that I'm using the resources around me. And I think that it's very important that we realize that using those resources because we don't know something doesn't mean that we're stupid or can't grasp something. It just means that that's why there are professionals out there, or there are experts, or there are people that study, like you've studied all of the standards and the laws, and you know them, so you can give wise, clear, and factual information.
But I'm not a lawyer.
But you're not a warrior. But if you know, if I were to go and try to give facts about how to repair a boat just because I saw a YouTube video on it,
Right.
you know,
Right.
so I think it's use our resources wisely, use those people around us that can help us go from PB to maybe not pro, but help us along in the areas to speed up the process. And it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm having to do that in my own life. It's kind of like, oh, I have this thingy coming, a couple of things coming. I'm like, I have no idea. And because I don't know, I have a bit of fear and anxiety about it. I can feel it sometimes just welling up a little bit. It's like, oh, that thing's coming. Oh, that thing's coming. Oh, but I know that
Scared.
do it scared. I have to trust that God's plan is perfect for me and that He's going to put the right people in my life, and He's going to, what happens because I just have to trust that I want to be in His will and wherever He takes that.
Yeah.
So I'm just, when I get that, I have to set it aside, push it away, and instead focus on that which I do know, which is I know He has a plan. I know that there are people in my life that are walking alongside me in this part of that journey. I know I have quite a few people that are walking and following and helping me out. So I can focus on that, or I can focus on the unknown or the scare and the anxiety. So for me, it's like a lot of a mental gymnastics a lot of times. And I think that as a parent of kiddos who have some unique differences, it is a lot of mental. I mean, it's physical a lot of times, but oftentimes more if you can get your mental kind of going in the same direction, even if you're exhausted, you're going to be okay. But when your mental has all the chipmunk like I do, sometimes it gets a little overwhelming because there is no anchor, there is no stability anywhere. So that was just my little random thing.
That's good. It actually, I think, goes along with what we're talking about. I sometimes get jealous of Kevin but it also aggravates me because he doesn't have the squirrels like you and I have. And he can get like hyper focused on something.
Oh, I do that too, though.
Everything else is just tuned out. I don't think I have that ability. I always seem to be like, what was that? What's going on over here? When I say he's hyper focused, like I can walk right by him and I can say something to him and he doesn't hear me. And he doesn't even notice that I just walked by. And Violet has a little bit of that as well. But if somebody were to walk by me, I'm squirrel. I'm like, what do you do you need something? What are you doing? And then my brain goes off that way. I don't know that I have that ability. Maybe I do. Maybe there is something that I get super hyper focused about and I can tune everything else out but I did. There's been a couple of times recently that I've seen on, how Facebook does memories, and twice on the same day in different years, it said I was in La La Land. So like, okay, well, I don't know what it is about this particular day that puts me in La La Land, but I've been there.
Was it fun? Did you find anything interesting?
I don't remember. I didn't take any pictures. There weren't any pictures with the post, just that I was there. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know.
I was wondering if there was like a fun adventure awaiting there.
I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know that that makes me hyper focused as just like I'm fried and my brain can't take anymore. So I'm just just wandering around. Like
I'm running around with the theme that I had in my head, which was,
school started, now what?
school started, now what? So I'm trying to think how because I have a lot of thoughts that could like go off, but they don't even tie into it. But I'm like, can we go with them, or do I need to stay where we are?
I don't know. We didn't really, did we start with the theme? I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people dealing with school starting, coming up, now what?
Well, because this is my thought. Okay, so the day started, or for our house, school started today. It was a part day.
Right.
But and I have never figured out why you do that on a Friday with Fran Day. Why do you do a partial day?
Because
Help me out, teacher, friend.
the the initial enthusiasm and excitement and trying to get all of that routine and the scheduling and all of that stuff, and then you kind of get that out of the way, and then you give everybody the break so that they can come back fresh. Or even if it doesn't start on a Friday with Fran Day, but it starts on Girl Scout Day, or oftentimes it's a lot harder for everybody to jump in and do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday the very first time versus just a Thursday and a Friday or a Wednesday. So I had a couple of years where we started on a Monday and we went all the way through Friday with Fran, and everybody, students, teachers, everybody was just exhausted. And when Friday came, nobody could like function because you're off for all that amount of time, and to just jump in and expect, that all the behaviors and teachers have to get familiar with their new students for that year, and the students need to get familiar with their new teachers and the new classmates and the new routines, and it's just there's a lot of processing that happens in that first week that people don't see. And
Well,
I mean, just
my mom was a teacher. I mean, I get part of it. I just okay.
and I don't know that I explained that as well as I could have when I taught full time and I was in it. I think I had a better way to describe it, but I think you can compare it to, as everybody was working from home or working remote during the pandemic, and then when they started to have to go back into their offices, and it was, oh, okay, I got to get dressed. I got to be dressed up. I got to do my hair. I got to do my makeup if that's what you do. I got to, drive maybe, I got to eat breakfast. I got to do all this stuff beforehand. And then I have my work day, because most people, once they started working remote, that those sort of things were laxed. And so, it's like, okay, well, I don't need to eat breakfast right away because I'll get a coffee break, and I'll go grab a bite to eat in the middle of, in between this meeting and this meeting, or, and so just getting that whole routine and just all of that stuff in a full week is a lot harder. Not that it's impossible, but it's a lot of mental, I think.
Back to the mental.
Yeah.
So what if you a quick snippet advice that you could give parents that they could do from now till school happens again to encourage or what could parents do to make going full time back? What would be your advice?
How to make it easier?
No, I mean just okay, so Bit had a partial day and she has to go back,
Right.
following church day. So what would you, I know for like her, I'm gonna give her just downtime. I'm not gonna give her a lot of expectations. I'm gonna let her just kind of chill. She still
Right.
has some responsibilities, but I'm not gonna say, okay, we are gonna go out and we're gonna tear the garage apart, reorganize it, and I expect you to help me wholeheartedly and have no spare time of your own. What would you tell parents that they might could do in this transition time?
I think if possible that you can have a conversation, with your child and say like, what kind of things happened that you liked? What kind of things happened that you didn't like? Is there anything that, you're worried about or that you're not sure about or, going forward, what can we do to prepare? And I think the downtime is important. I mean, like Kevin went for his teaching position yesterday. He had students yesterday and today, but he had teacher meeting on Wednesday. So he's been there.
His first day pictures.
Right. Yeah. And so he's been there for C days. And then last night we had something we had to do in the evening. So he didn't get a chance to relax. So this weekend, I'm not really like going to push him to do a lot or anything because I know he is going to need that time to process like, okay, this is what happened this week. These were the things that, like I said, that went well, that didn't go well. I've got to prepare for next week. And sometimes the physical expense of energy actually helps with some of that mental stuff because then you're focused on the physical thing that you're doing. And it gets you out of your head for a while. So, doing something mildly physical. I'm not going to say go run a marathon or something, but just being aware of where you are mentally.
Sorry.
And that's good mental health all the time. It's just trying to be aware of where your mental state is. Is your body telling you that you need to stop doing whatever it is? Is your body okay and you can continue going? So yeah, I guess that would be it. Does that help? I don't know that helped.
I was just trying to think of something to give that parent that's had a child that came home and it didn't go well, or a child that came home and they're super all over the place because it went so well and they've got the Zoomies as my niece said about her dog.
Yeah.
And just kind of like my brain is, so I was just trying to find just a little nugget that we could share, and I think that helped.
Okay.
So kind of what I take away from what you said is let your child be the guide.
As much as you can. I mean,
let their words and actions kind of help gear what you want to do within reason.
And understand that if there are things that you have scheduled and you have to do those things, that they may not be at their best during those times, and to try to be patient and try to be a little more understanding than, we joke. I have a nephew who is 12 and he just recently started working at someone on the other side of his family's business. And so he had worked a 6-hour day. And when he came home, his mom wanted him to do something. And he was like, oh, I just worked a 6-hour shift. And, from a parent perspective who goes nonstop and works, she was like, so you worked a 6, it became like this joke. But that was a different thing for him. That he wasn't used to that. So yeah, he could still do other stuff, but he may not be at 100%. He may not be able to give it everything that he would have given it had he not just worked the shift at the business. So just be aware of what your own expectations are and make sure that those expectations are reasonable and realistic for the child and yourself and what you're going through with the things that you have to do. I mean, there's activities are back in place, family visits, trips, church going, whatever, shopping, whatever. If you had stuff scheduled that you need to go to, that's fine. That's normal. But just don't automatically assume that everything is going to be perfect after those first few days of school or the first day of school, or just, again, be aware of what your child is doing and your child's behaviors and your behaviors.
Yeah.
And the unseen behaviors too. The withdrawing, the hiding, the being very quiet if they're normally not very quiet, as well as the more obvious, like you said, the Zoomies, or just being like super chatty, anything that's different. So guess what? It's time already.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And I had to look at how much time we've been on rather than the time on the clock, because we started at such an odd time today. But
I have no idea when we started, so.
Yeah. Well, that's why I look at the timer that the recorder shows, the stream shows, whatever we call this thing.
But I don't know what it means, so I never know.
I know. But yeah, no, I was giggling because I called it a recorder, like a
tape recorder?
Yeah. It's like I posted a joke today, and I thought, like, people that are younger are not going to understand this. It was, have you heard that Elvis Costello and ABBA are going out on tour together? It's ABBA and Costello on tour. I wonder who's on first. And I thought, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, that doesn't make any sense.
What's on second?
I don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't know who's on third. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, we need to wrap up.
Okay. So are you going to wrap it?
School's in, now what? School started, now what? Alex didn't throw it out there today, but you did. Balance, grace. It's one day. Yeah. Moderation. Just, take it easy. It's not the end of the world. Thanks, Mom. Have a good weekend too.
Thank you.
Everyone
I'm
else.
glad you're here.
I know. We haven't seen her in a while. So hopefully everybody is back next week and everybody has a good week. On Tuesday with #NoLimits, I am having guests on from an organization called Visions LLC, and we will be talking about behavior and applied behavioral analysis and how it can work in all stages, in all businesses, with all people. Oftentimes people think ABA and they think autism, and that is not the only place that ABA is beneficial. So tune in Tuesday at 1 o'clock Central Time so you can ask your questions.
Cool.
See you next week.